Skydiving I went, Rocky Mountain climbing I went, 2.7 seconds on a bull named Blue Mansion. And I loved deeper and I spoke sweeter and I gave forgiveness I've been denying. Hi everybody, I'm Matt from Under the Covers Music. Today we're going to talk a little bit about speaking the language, and we're going to do that by looking at what we call secondary dominant chords. I've been playing a lot of acoustic guitar lately, acoustic singer-songwriter sort of stuff, and these secondary dominant chords come up a lot, so I thought I would spend just a little bit of time and talk about what they are, what they're not, and help you to hear them, identify them, and maybe use them in their own writing. So, again, there's a few sort of core characteristics of these secondary dominant chords. And first is that they're outside the key. So when we were looking at that Tim McGraw tune, right, we're in G, sort of chugging along, and then all of a sudden we hit this B7. And that B7 is outside of the key of G, and it provides a little bit of color, and it sort of does some things to sort of move us outside of the conventional chord progression that's going on. And then that B7 goes down to an E minor. And that's a temporary shift in tonality. So instead of that B minor, here we take that B7 and we resolve it down to the E minor, and then we sort of pull back into G and do those things. So the secondary dominant chords are outside the key. They're usually a dominant seventh chord, and they temporarily shift us around before bringing us back into the tonal center of the tune or the section or whatever it is. So I wanted to sort of highlight what that may look like across the key of G. So there's a lot of misconceptions that it just has to be sort of the fifth of the five, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be. You can create a secondary dominant out of any note within sort of the scale structure. That's what I wanted to sort of show in this chart here. So we're in the key of G, right? So let's get it in our ears. We're going to do G, 4, 5, 1. Now let's look at that secondary dominant based on the A minor. So we're going to go to an E7 to an A minor, then back to the G. And then we'll just sort of rotate through that whole chart from here. So E7 to A minor, and then back to the G. Do the same thing in the B minor. So F7, F sharp 7. C, back to the G. A7, the D, back to G. The B7, step 2, the E minor, and then the G. Sharp 7. So again, if you look at that, those secondary dominants are a fifth above the actual chord note within the key itself. And again, you can use that to provide a little bit of color, and you can hear it when you're hearing other tunes. So I'll just leave you with American Pie, because it's a really good example of that from here when we get to the this will be the day that I die, this will be the day that I die. It sort of stacks that A7, which is a secondary dominant, goes to the D7, which is just the dominant, and then gets us all the way back to G from there. So hope you enjoyed it. Please reach out if you have any questions. Enjoy. Bye bye, Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. Good old boys were drinking whiskey and rye, singing, this'll be the day that I die. This'll be the day that I die.